England have begun their Autumn Nation Series campaign with a victory against Australia.
Yes, Coley, they have, and we're going to be bringing you all the reaction right here on YouTube on all the big games from this month. So please like and subscribe. It does really help us out.
That's right, Ben. Straight after this episode, we'll drop another one on the breakdown of Ireland versus New Zealand in Chicago.
Right, Coley, let's get into it. So, I reckon favourite moment of the match. Let's share it in 3, 2, 1.
England's Maul try.
Oh.
It's got to be the Maul try, mate.
I thought you might be a sucker for the Maul.
England drive over Australia from 20 metres out in a rolling Maul, 5-man line out, 5+1 line out, in the 70th minute of a test match. Like, A, it's incredible. B, I'd also like to note, the third try came from a similar situation on the other side of the field. So I just thought that those two bits really tied in and that really made the game. Although England were ahead at that point, England played brilliantly to see out the game. And I think probably those Maul tries, especially the fourth one, was Cameron Dickey's try was probably a bit of a unexpected in the fact that you don't go in. I've never gone into a game going, or the plan has never been, this Maul mode from the 22. Because it's actually really hard to do, Ben. Because normally you get momentum, you sort of play for a penalty, you either break out or, you know, if you're Australian, you're probably thinking this morning at some point, maybe when that Maul got going, you had about 15 metres to pull the thing over and maybe get yellow carded, maybe have another penalty, but you ain't conceding. So if you're Australian, you're probably a little bit embarrassed by that forward pack. I know it would be if you're in the England team, you definitely would be. But, yeah, the fact that England, you don't plan for that Maul, but you go 22 metres forward. And tell you what, it's a killer. As a physical, like a mental blow to Australia, but it's a physical blow to England as well, in the fact that I've been at the front of Mauls and like that, and your legs are burning, your back hurts, you're 70 minutes into a test match, and you just almost, for England not to fall over, which is, again, I'm going on a tangent here, but just think how heavy your legs are in the 70th minute of a test match. You've been running around all day, you're knackered. The easy thing to do is you sort of have, imagine if you're pushing against like a door, right? Really hard, it's locked, and then someone opens it and it swings open, and your momentum bursts through, you'd probably fall on the floor, wouldn't you? There's times in that Maul where it's kind of like that, where Australia resisting against it, and England are sort of pushing against them. The Australian moves or spins out, and England, the easy option is to fall on the floor, but England all stay together and keep going forward. And I thought actually to do that 70 minutes into a test match, when, I say, Guy Pepper's at the front of that line out, lifting, he'd been on the field all day, Toji went up, he'd been on the field all day, like, boys are shattered. Genji's at the back, who's came on the fresh field, but like, for them not fall over and to be able to finish the try from 22, it was incredible. That was my moment of the game. That's what I enjoyed the most about the game.
How do you get to that level though? Because Australia had a Maul, for instance, in only about sort of 7 metres out, and they almost tried to do a bit of a front peel, and Angus Bell fell over, and the entire lot then collapsed on the top of them, right? And then Australia missed their moment. You know, we know collapsed Maul, turnover, England's ball. We saw Australia like fail to do it, and then we saw England be able to do it just from outside the 22. Because from a halfback's point of view, we're calling strikes. So we'll tell you whether we want you to Maul, whether it's a 4-man, it's a 5-man, a 7-man. We'll have lots of variations, whether it's a breakout from the Maul, whether it's a Maul, and then we run a strike off that. So, like, a halfbacks are never expecting you to go the full distance, and probably nor are you. But like you said there, Coley, like, how do you practice that? Is it literally boys bashing each other all week and replication of trying to do that Maul against each other? So will they be out on Tuesday afternoon, for instance, this week, preparing for Fiji, and it's pack v pack, and you're spending half an hour mauling and brawling? You
have probably in your unit session specific 5 metre line out drives and stuff like that, which is the hardest part of the game, because it's part of the game plan. Obviously, you get 5 metres out, you want to score. But I think you also do a broader Maul skills, sometimes within units, sometimes within warm-ups and stuff, which is basically staying tight. And Steve Borthwick's a master when it comes to coaching them all, but his ability he will do different drills around the field and trying to pull teams apart. And that Maul on the 22 yesterday it wasn't probably rehearsed in the fact that we're going to maul them from 22, but the actual skill set of everyone staying in front of the ball, everyone staying tight. You look how compact the England team are. Even when guys start spinning out Australia, they take 2 or 3 Australian bodies with them, and the rest of the guys straighten them all up towards the goal line and keep going forward, and they stay tight. And Cameron Dickey stays connected to, I think he gets the ball at the back, but then he's basically right, and Toji grabs hold of him, and him and Toji stay wedged together the entire way forward. So yeah, that's probably, you wouldn't practice that Pacific Maul, but you would practice the skill set there, and that's probably accumulation of, in England, been in camp 2 weeks, but accumulation of that time together, the time in Argentina practicing your Maul, the work Steve and the coach have put in probably for the past couple of years in regards to just the skill set and individual work of everybody in that Maul to get it right.
From a nines point of view during the Maul, like obviously we're organising, we're like trying to look for like whether you shift to the right, to the left, like where the weakness is. You're obviously picking up lads if they've fallen from the maul, like get back in there. You're also trying to keep the ball at the back of the maul, so at any point you can use it. But I think what the absolute positive, and someone like Lee Blackett, for instance, the attack coach, will be loving it, is because the better the English maul is, the more that obviously teams have to commit to that maul. So if you've got a poor maul, for instance, of course, you can probably deal with it less numbers, which means you've got more numbers off the back of the tail of the line out. It means that when England shape to maul, like you don't all have to hit it. You can stand in those spaces, and suddenly you've got 3 defenders inside the defending 10, which allows them to obviously get a lot more aggressive in defence. So someone like Lee Blackett, straight away, like a powerful England maul, it is such a weapon because it sucks in more defenders. It means they have to respect them all. And then you see all these variations, which we saw a lot, by the way, and we'll touch on this. We saw a lot of variations from England's maul in terms of peels coming around, in terms of breakouts. So like looked like a maul, they insert 7 breaks out, plays runners, and the better the maul is, the more variations you have that, and the more one-on-ones you'll then create at the tail of the line out because of that, because they have to respect it.
It shows you the importance of blokes like, say, a Maritoji in defence and, for instance, a Will Skelton. If you have a bloke that can wreck a maul, a single one-man maul wrecking machine, it frees up 6 other bodies, 7 other bodies to defend, the open field. And I think that's what sort of, when you get to those games, you need blokes like that who show their worth in maul defending. And everyone thinks it's a bit boring and old school. But actually, as you say there, if England get the dominant maul, then Australia put 5-6 bodies in to defend. Everything tightens up. There's space on the edge or there's space around, or even the tail gunner is the guy at the back of the line out who is normally the sort of 7, or sometimes it's a back rower. He doesn't know, or the hooker. He doesn't know where to hit the maul. And so he hesitates, and then you have a breakout play, or the maul goes forward, or he hits it, and then the 9 and the 7 break out. And, there's so many options you can play off maul, so many variations. That's the thing really impressed me with England and Argentina, with Lee Blackett's attack there. The set piece variation there, get the 9s out running and that kind of stuff. And similar, you looked in the first half, although I talk about the maul there, I think some of the work was done for those mauls was the breakouts in the first half, where Australia go, England just going to play off the top, England just going to break out, England just going to do this, and actually, balls, they've mauled us down the field. So yeah, it all ties into one thing. That's the great thing about the game, and if you're good at mauling, it opens up everything, opens the whole playbook of what you want to do. And I think that's one thing England, would really want to impress home, and sort of, you don't know where their maul's coming, you don't know where they're going to break out, you're going to do what they're going to do, and therefore that element of surprise really helps you.
Everything has a knock-on effect, especially in attack. It's like South Africa when they scrum, right? The strikes that you can run off those scrums, because the back rowers who's defending against South African scrum cannot get off that scrum early. If they get off that scrum early, they get hosed. So they have to stay down. So what does that allow? It allows a larger disconnect between the 10 and the back row that's obviously meant to cover him, and then you can sit down the 10 better. It gives you more space. Everything has a massive effect in attack. That's why it's the hardest part of the game. Like, everything has a knock-on effect. Talking about attack and knock-on effect, I want to talk about Pollock's try. So, Tom Roebuck, 2 assists at the weekend. I think the difference between England when they kick contestable and able to influence, force errors or create slap downs, or obviously win it cleanly like he did against Suaalii, which was very interesting off that kickoff, by the way. I'll come back to Pollock. But did you notice, obviously, Australia kicked off. They knew England were going to box kick it back, and they put Joseph Suaalii in the backfield because he's so good in the air, aerial, or so they thought. So Tom Roebuck goes up and dominates the air, which was class to see. But it kind of, again, it
he
shows...
He might be good in the air, but he didn't actually jump on that one.
He didn't get off the air. He didn't get off the ground, did he? And I think that's where it just highlights, like, team do their research. So people may look at that and just think, or maybe they don't realise that was Suaalii in the backfield, or they haven't probably thought, what's he doing there? He's doing there because Australia kick off. They want him the best in the air at dealing with it, and he didn't. I think England's setup on that in particular was very, very impressive. If you actually look at it, so you got the ruck, you got Sam Underhill as the first chaser on the right-hand side. You've then got Tom Roebuck outside him, and you've got Jamie George down the 5-metre channel. What it allows Roebuck to do is just go after it and go and attack it, because you've got coverage. You've got Underhill on the inside, you've got Jamie George on the outside. He can go and compete, go and get in the air, and those guys will cover him if he doesn't win it. You've also got Ben-El chasing from the outside, and long and behold, what happens? Roebuck gets in the air, tips it to Underhill. Great awareness, by the way, to then tip it to Ben-El, who's got the gas to go.
That's been rehearsed, that's been planned, that's been drilled into training. That's what England will spend their time doing. And, if you look at the first part of that game, so England were blasting every breakdown. I think when they were in kick contestable, they were landing it, and England were making a mess of the breakdown. So England have deliberately positioned, so Jamie George in the 5, but two back rowers around that ball. So if Sohaili catches that ball, he's either getting man and ball from Roebuck, and then two back rowers are piling into it or trying to jackal the ball and just disrupt that breakdown. So England really obviously decided that was Australia sort of kick returns a big source of possession for them. So actually will kind of kill the contest at source, and although Roebuck got in the air and stole it, which again was, sort of not justified as picking the team, but that's the reason he was in the team, is his aerial skills are unbelievable, aren't they, about getting in the air and stealing it back. And when he got picked, you kind of knew that's how England were going to go. But just the whole setup around that box kick is how England the smartness of England's coaching staff to put them in position to succeed, which everyone else would just go, oh, it's just a kick. Whereas actually read into it and look into it, you see so much about the game, which is, again, what we talk about, how fascinating the game is, the game within the game. But anyway.
Well explained, Coley. You're right, because everything is almost orchestrated to not cover all bases, but certainly give England best outcome, whether they win it in the air, whether it's man and ball, whether it's a little bit long, they're all covered, whether they want to hit and blast and what have you. But I want to talk about Pollock's because it's sort of very similar situation, not quite as well organised because it's a bit more off the cuff. But obviously Mitchell goes to the air. Again, the difference between contestable and being slightly long was really obvious yesterday. I think when England go contestable, it's a massive weapon. When it's a little bit long, teams ultimately, you give it to them on their terms and they can then influence in terms of what they then do back to you. So great contestable kick. Roebuck, again, working from outside in, sort of blind sides, arm up. We've seen him do it for Sale so many times and slaps that ball down. And Pollock's pickup, like with one hand, it's not even a pickup from the floor necessarily. It sort of bounces and he just sort of scoops it. But if you actually look at the lead up, Pollock gets checked. So the guy that's trying to charge down Mitchell actually ends up sort of checking into Pollock and almost stopping his run for a second, which actually works out brilliantly because the time he then sort of has to reaccelerate to sort of fill into that space, the ball lands perfectly in his hands. Great one-handed like scoop, and then the acceleration. Like, we know what a great athlete he is. We know he's got speed. We saw Ben Earl, how quick he is as well. Like, England's pace is a real point of difference across the board, right? But then he goes on the outside, and then for a second with the slap tackle, I thought he ain't going to make it. But he gets up, gets over the line, and the crowd. To be fair, they went nuts, and rightly so. So it just shows really from those two tries for me is. People sometimes look at kicking and they see it as such a negative thing. But actually, if it's done well and it's organised the right way, it can lead to opportunities, it can lead to tries, it can have such an effect on the game. And when you've got athletes like that in the back row and they're organised to chase in certain positions, it just shows you, right, lands in the right place, England were off. And we saw it with Ben Earl and we also saw it with Pollock.
It also shows you like the fine margins of test matches. Like England have kicked the box kicking duel. And if you're chasing that kick, like Pollock, fair play, he's going flat out. And I think most of England's back rows, and like every time England kick the ball, they're going flat out because they don't know which one's going to drop, right? And you don't know which one's going to drop, but one is. And when it does drop, you've got to be in a position to take advantage of it. And twice England did. And I think that's, credit to the England boys for going flat out, and Pollock, say, chasing there, and they built incredible bit of skill. And I say, when he catches it, even his balance to sort of weave in between two runners and carry on going, it's incredible the athleticism he has. But I just think that people have to recognise that, yes, it's potentially test match can be an arm wrestle, and then there's going to get one or two opportunities, and you have to be in a position to take them. And to be in that position, you have to be flat out and 100% and basically do what you train every time, because the one time you don't run hard, that opportunity might be there. If Pollock doesn't run hard, the opportunity is gone. You don't get that back, and that opens what blows open the test match in some regards. So, yeah, no, it's that ability to talk about being disciplined in like penalties and stuff, but actually being disciplined in being flat out, running hard, being in the right position at the right time, and all the sort of boring stuff that when you're watching, they say boring stuff, it's really fascinating, but actually when you watch the game, people just go, oh, it's just a kick, it's just this, it's just the caterpillar ruck, blah, blah, blah. But actually you look at the setup and you look at people actually doing their jobs, that's what wins you the game. And hopefully we're giving everyone a bit more of an insight into the outcomes and why things lead to certain opportunities. Now, Coley, the back row is a huge debate at the moment. So Guy Pepper played full 80 at the weekend. I thought he had a terrific game. He's obviously getting to learn international rugby, because I was actually watching the game with JJ, Jonathan Joseph, and we were chatting away, and he said how good Guy Pepper is over the ball and everything like that. And I said, it's interesting though, isn't it? Because at test level, it's just even harder. And he didn't get a jackal yesterday, for instance. And we were just chatting, saying like, you see it at Bath and how many jackals and turnovers he gets. And then you go to test level and you just don't get the time and space, which also then highlights, I've got to give a shout out to Fraser McWright, because like, didn't he highlight
like the role of a 7 and how effective you can be at the breakdown. And some of the turnovers he got, Coley, he's in there so quickly, right? So I just want to say, again, a mega game for him. I'm a big fan of Fraser McWright. But back to England back row. Guy Pepper, 80 minutes. Ben Earl had a great game. He came off. Pollock came on for him. Obviously, Sam Underhill started the game, and then Tom Curry back out there. Don't know if you noticed, Coley, but I'm actually wearing Curry's arm guard just to celebrate him making it back on the pitch. He's actually sent this to the For Love of Rugby. It's going to go in the studio.
What does that smell like?
So I'm basically going to walk around today, and if anyone comes within a metre of me, I'm just going to like fly into them like he took out the Aussie 10. Kick long, great kick by Spenny. The 10's looking, doodling around, looking for a crossfield. Is there any space there? Waboom. No, mate, there isn't. Love that from Curry. Great to see him back out there. His nose is looking even more squashed, by the way. Did you notice that? I noticed that.
Yes.
I noticed that even in the stadium. His nose is looking particularly squashed because that's how he plays
the amount of old school ear taping that's going on as well.
Yeah, he has, yeah.
No, but he's got, let's say, but there's loads of like headbands going on in English rugby now. I really appreciate the old school ear taping. Baxter's has one, Jamie George has one.
Well, you say Jamie George had one.
Well, he'd flop off, yeah.
Half it came up and it looked like he had an Alice band on with just white tape. So, Jinxie, if you're listening, mate, please sort your headband out at half time. It looked like he had an Alice band on, mate.
I once had my ear was like bleeding everywhere, so I had to get a head strapped. I played France in the scrum, and basically first scrum, I was against Domingo and Kaiser. Kaiser lets go of his bind. I pop up and the head strap just goes straight over my eyes. So I'm literally at the top of this scrum with a thing over my eyes. I'm just like, this is fucking bad. So yeah, that soon got pied off. But yeah, no, I appreciate the ear straps that a lot of England's forwards are rocking. I think it's a good look. Freshly old school. So who do you think, like you talk about Pollock, Earl, Pepper, Curry, Underhill, like England have got a variety of options, but what's their best back row? Or do you think you have horses for courses and you kind of, depending on your game plan, you can pick different players in regards to, Pepper might be probably the best line-up player. That Curry, you know what you get in. Underhill's going to smash things. Like Ben Earl's open range, so's Pollock. There's impact. So, do you horses for courses, or do you sort of pick a back row and go with it?
I think England are in a position with such depth at the back row that they pick it for whatever the opposition is. So let's take another example, for instance. If we look at the midfield this weekend that's playing against, likely to play against Fiji, you probably need a bit more bulk in there. So Ollie Lawrence, for me, seems like an obvious choice to come in. And that's not because Fraser Dingwall's done anything wrong or anything like that. It's just that they probably need a bit more physicality within that back line against a team like Fiji. So you'd pick him, in my opinion. You look at what England have done traditionally at fullback. So teams that kick short or go to the air a lot, they've gone for like a Freddie Stewart at fullback to win that air. But if teams kick long, for instance, like a France, they've gone with someone like a Marcus Smith, or they've gone with a George Furbank. And back row, I see it very much the same, Coley. It's dependent almost of who they're playing. Now, for me, Ben Earl, there was a lot of chat about Tom Willis. He's going, he's not involved. Well, I think Ben Earl pretty much said, well, don't forget about me. I'm still mega, and he was. So for me, Ben Earl's still the 8. Curry is absolute world class, but so Sam Underhill. And Guy Pepper, I just needs just minutes at test level. He's got a huge future and he just needs minutes, right? And then Pollock, for me, at the moment, I'd still use him as the impact guy. I just think that when you look at early exchanges in test matches, the collisions are big. And we saw that yesterday, didn't we, Cole? I actually thought the gain line was quite impressive, both from Australia and England. But at times, England were running and Australia were lining them up and hitting well. There was one where I think, and I don't know who it was, I think it was Ben Earl that carried into Joseph Suaalii, and he literally banged him.
Early doors in that test match, the Australian physicality, I don't think Australia were they're different to everyone else. They play a lot of phase inside their own half. They sort of, there's picking and going inside their own half at one point, and you're a bit almost like playing for a penalty to get, but you looked at Valentini, he's winning collisions. Joseph Suaalii, he's banging people. Tupou, fair play. The tight head, I think that was this probably sounds disrespectful, but that's best game I've ever seen him play. His scrum was great. He's carrying the ball. He's knocking people over. The fact there was one point where he banged Jamie George, but I think England may have planned that off a scrum, and he runs back inside and then bangs Jamie George. And you just thought, you know what I mean? When those boys connect, they were sort of almost winning those physical exchanges. And I thought they were helping keep Australia in that first half, although England never looked like losing, but Australia sort of had that danger of just being, they were physically getting on top, and there was sort of point where the pound in the 5 metre line, they're sort of almost running at 40, trying to find 40, and even just winning the exchanges. And so it was, fair play to Australia. They came out and were banging, put it that way.
And because of those early exchanges, I feel that Pollock is still that impact guy, Coley, at the moment. I think that he can come on, he can cover 8, he can cover 7. You could get away with putting him at 6 if he needs to be. And I just think at the moment he's that impact guy. Curry and Underhill have always sort of battled it out, and 2 terrific players. Ben Earl, for me, was very impressive yesterday. Like, unlucky not to get another try. You know, you got to tip your hat to Harry Potter. But like, that was England strike off the midfield scrum. Again, I'll come to Lee Blackett shortly, but I will just touch on it whilst we're on it now. Is, you know, the scrum, the set piece, they then take that left edge, 40, nice distribution. You've got Tommy Freeman in those wide channels, which I love seeing. Like, they take that left edge, really recycle the ball very, very quickly, come back 40. Ben Earl hits a great line, clean through, and Harry Potter with a hell of a stop to hold him up. That would have been 17-0. So England were and would have been deserved of 17-0. Do you know what I mean? Good for it.
Oh, mate, Harry Potter. I really did enjoy, when I spoke about moments of the game, him versus Freddie Stew. Freddie Stew, less Tigers. Potter used to be like those two going at it in the air, just climbing into each other. It just made me reminisce about the good old days in training, Ben.
I did enjoy the battle between Freddie and Harry Potter going at it in the air, Coley. I also enjoyed Potts after the intercept, just having a little glance at the big screen. Now, people will be looking at that because Pollock also did the same thing, and they'll be thinking, why are they glancing? And in my opinion, is they're glancing at the big screen to see, like, is there any cover coming across? Like, what's coming? Like, is there anyone there? Like, can I cruise? Do I need to keep sprinting? All you need to do is sort of glance, and it gives you a visual of, who's in and around you.
Yeah. I think that sounds a bit technical. I think, right, if you notice, when the TV camera flicks on somebody, like even in just like a break in play, everyone just seems to be able to pick themselves up on the big screen, don't they? So I think they just look, and I'd like to say it's all trained, but you don't train with like big screens in training. So
no, you don't.
We see it in the NFL when like running backs make a break, they kind of look up and like I think it's probably because you're running in that direction. It just gives you something to focus on and look at. But yeah, no, I don't know. I don't think it's particularly, people give it you check where the covering defender's coming across and if you're being caught and that kind of stuff, which I guess you are if you've got time. But I think a lot of the times it's just basically pick a point in the distance and run as hard as you can. And then, you know what I mean? Go from there. Because I don't think you're going to pick up, like, say if I'm Harry Potter and I've got a defender coming across, I'm not looking at the screen thinking, oh, it's defender coming across. I'm looking at the defender going, how am I going to do him? I
do want to talk about just Potter's intercept for any, like, players out there, young players, whatever, because people, when people throw an intercept, people go, oh, like, it's obvious, like, he was in the... Actually, it's not. It's really difficult. You're making decisions like less than half a second. So I just want to talk about Dingwall in that instance. So Fraser Dingwall's got the ball. He's got it perfectly. He's running nice and square at the defence. He's got his elbow up, like ball on the hip, which means I always called it as like loaded, because like you're loaded ready just to ping the ball straight away. If you start the ball in the middle, sort of level with your belly button, you've then got to cock the ball back to your hip. Then you've got to fire it across. Well, that movement alone, just from belly button to cock it back up to then make that distribution, you've lost a second already, Coley, haven't you? Like that, you haven't got that time in Test rugby. So, or shouldn't, don't try and do that. Like the way he's done it, he's got the ball cocked, elbows high, he's ready to go, he's ready to fire. Now, what he's waiting for, he's got 2 runners, and essentially he's got a runner inside shoulder of Harry Potter. So Harry Potter's defending on the left wing, of course. So he's got a runner coming on Harry Potter's right hand shoulder. He's also got a player on the outside for the wide ball, which of course is on Harry Potter's left shoulder. And at this point, as an attacker, Fraser Dingwall, you almost are waiting for the defender to make the decision for you. Now, what I mean by this, if Harry Potter turns in and jams in, it's the ball across. He's made the decision for you. I got the ball cocked. I'm sort of eyeballing him. I'm engaging with him. Potter turns in, ball straight across. Potter turns out. So as I've got it cocked, Potter just shapes slightly on the out. Well, I know it's the short ball then. And that's the defender almost makes the decision. Now, on the flip side, what Harry Potter does very, very well here is he holds his nerve. And this is difficult. Like, you've got to be so patient as a winger because everything's telling you, you've got 2 runners, one on your inside, one on your outside, to make a decision, like to almost gamble. to a degree. Like, you've got Fraser Dingwall sitting down your defender who's meant to be partnering with you. You've got to make a decision, it almost feels like. But what he does incredibly well is he sits in that space really square and he just holds his nerve. And by holding his nerve, Fraser almost waits, then goes for face ball, and then Potter can reaccelerate and pick it off. So, like, attackers doing everything right, but also defenders doing everything right as well. And it's just like, so it's not, again, it's just to highlight, like, it's not a bad decision, like, from Fraser Dingwall. He's done he's going at the line, he's got 2 attackers, he's just trying to pick that decision. It's a compliment to Harry Potter, actually, by having the nerve to sit in that space for as long as possible. Because had he just turned in or just turned out, that's the cue as an attacker. It's the same around the ruck as a 9. I look for exactly the same thing. Like, depending on what the defender's shoulders do, head, shoulders, where they turn, that for me, it was always my decision about whether I play the face ball, whether I play the short ball. So there you go. So if you're a winger and you play, defend like Harry Potter, sit in that space nice and square. And if you're an attacker, like, go at them, ball clocked nice and high, ready to ping across. And remember, your decision is dependent on whether he turns in or turns out. This episode is brought to you by ITV's Champions Full Gallop. So, Coley, you know you now got a proper real-life job.
Yes, I do, Ben.
I'm thinking of embarking on a new career myself.
That's great. I'm really happy for you. Bit of coaching, punditry, becoming an agent.
No. I'm honestly going to become a jockey.
A jockey, Ben?
I'm serious. I've been watching a new series called Champions Full Gallop. It's a documentary on ITV, and I reckon I got what it takes.
And what does it take?
Passion.
I can see that.
Skill.
You were a very skillful rugby player.
Bravery.
No offence, absolutely not.
Don't kill my dreams, Dan. I'm going to be a jockey, and you can't tell me otherwise.
I'm yet to be convinced, but I'd love to see you try.
Well, give it a watch and tell me what you think. It is an amazing series, giving unprecedented access and capturing the drama and the high stakes of the sport. It follows the most recent jump season, featuring the Cheltenham Festival, the Grand National Festival, and loads more.
That does look great, to be fair. I'll give it a watch. I'm still not convinced you've got the perfect attributes to be a jockey, though, Ben.
Don't be jealous, mate. Champions Full Gallop Series 2 is now airing on ITV1 every Friday at 10:45pm. It is also available to watch on ITVX. Who knows? I might even be in Series 3.
So Lenny would keep England's back row the same for next week against Fiji. If you agree or disagree, leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify down below. And I'm sure we can have a debate about it. Ben, we'll talk about the back row. What are you doing in the centres? Stick or twist?
So this weekend, and I mentioned earlier, of course, that I think against Fiji and the power that they have, I'd be tempted to put Ollie Lawrence in at 12. Just to give England that punch and that dent. And then I'd look to release someone like Fraser Dingwall with 20 to go, again, because of his distribution, for his ability to move the ball, to create opportunities. You know, the back end of the game against Fiji, there will be space, undoubtedly. There always is. But the early exchanges are very, very important against Fiji, because you've got to earn the right. Like, people say all the time, and you'll hear it all week, that England will say, we'll earn the right. And by England earning the right, what that looks like, again, it's mauling, it's scrum, it's getting the territory right. It's getting the territory right, sorry. It's the defence and what that looks like, and it's almost punishing Fiji for the offloads and the way that they play. And then you can be a little bit more ball movement and almost punish them back end. So I think Ollie Lawrence starts this weekend. I think that someone like Fraser Dingwall comes on back end of the 20 to be more, as I say, creative and everything like that. Now, the big question, of course, was Tommy Freeman at 13, Coley. Now, we said a couple of weeks ago that we felt like he would be 13 for England. I think a lot of people maybe anticipated that happening as well. And a lot of people will be looking at going, did the experiment work? It's not an experiment. I believe that he is a 13 going forward for England. And you look at the talent that England have within their back three. I think Freeman has the pace and the power to play 13. And, you know, his lateral movement, Australia really tried to target. What they tried to do is go down 10 channel a lot with Hunter Pasami, you know, getting momentum there, didn't they, Cole? And then they also tried the other moves they tried to do, of course, pick on 13 and almost try and flood numbers around 13 channel with winger and test Tommy's sort of defensive capabilities there. But he's got such lateral pace, such speed that he can cover all that. And I think from an attacking point of view, I really liked it. Like, you know, people will say, oh, England didn't attack loads. Well, they were never going to. And we mentioned this, you know, They only had a week's preparation into this game. For England, like the attack you'll see this weekend, for instance, when they take on Fiji, the following weekend against New Zealand, like it's going to evolve. Lee Blackett, I saw plenty of examples of little strike plays, little movements that they did. And again, I'll come back to that. Like, but where we can use Tommy Freeman, because he has the power to hit lines, but he also has the pace to go on outside breaks. So I would very much keep Tommy Freeman at 13. I really liked what I saw. I think that by the end of the autumn, I think that a lot of people will see that he is England's long-term future as a 13. And then it'll be a case of sort of your Ollie Lawrence's at 12, your Fraser Dingwall's at 12. Of course, Seb Atkinson is unavailable at the moment, but he can come in. Ollie Lawrence could also cover 13 as well, and Freemo can go back onto the wing. But I think, you've got to look at it as Freemo is very much in the mix to be England's 13.
I think there was times that England's attack looked a little bit clunky, sort of ball in hand, but I think that's probably more the fact they've been together 5 days, and as those movements, you see, because England trying to get the ball to the width, like on that the play where Earl gets held by the line. So England trying to produce that width on the game, but they just need to, I think, more time together, more time in camp. You'll see that evolve, and I think in a week or 2 times they'll be fully versed in that area of the game. Yeah,
multi-phase shape we didn't necessarily see as much. But certainly strike shape we saw.
England aren't going to play loads of multi-phase rugby, I think. Unless it's in the opposition 22, opposition half, they will. But Australia held onto the ball for long periods of time, and England just defended it comfortably. And so I think, like, in terms of the game, England, it was never going to be sort of possession attack versus possession attack. It was going to be Australia hanging onto the ball and England using it in the right areas of the field. So you get that. But I think the times when England came alive for the strikes, England did that, and I think there will be. Those bits will keep evolving, keep coming as they spend more time together, which, I think the ceiling is incredibly high with the phenomenal athletes you got on the field. It's just going to be a question of getting there.
If you take the, again, like what Freemo can do, because he's got the pace of an outside break, because he does have the power to play short, you can do lots of variations with it. If you look at one of England's early lineouts, for instance, they kick to the corner and, the ball comes down, they look like a maul, and actually Jamie George gets to the back of the maul. Alex Mitchell, who was standing at normal half-back position, he shifts out, breaks the 15-metre line. Jamie George plays the ball just in front of Tom Roebuck, who's in between Jamie and Alex Mitchell, goes a face ball in front of Roebuck to Alex Mitchell. He then has Fraser Dingwall on the short ball. He has Tommy Freeman pushing through on the outside as well, and he has George Ford out the back. Now, if you go out the back on that, like the winger, Jorgensen is literally trying to shoot onto George, which means that you've got like 35 metres to work with at a 2-on-1 with Freddie on the outside and Manny on the outside of that. So they play short with Dingwall, who floods it. He then gets another offload to Tommy Freeman, who makes another little metre. We saw one in the back end of the game as well, where England come off the line out, they hit the midfield, they come back, Mitchell snipes right back from where the line out came. England have a short runner, it plays out the back to a forward. They've done exactly the same. They tip it to Tom Curry, who then misfires it to Ollie Chesham. Now, Ches wouldn't have scored, but he'd probably got about a metre out and it would have led to a try. And I just think like you saw a few of those patterns of what England were trying to do, and then you tie it in with the maul that we saw at the back end of the game. Like the variations we're going to see is going to be layered on. And Tommy Freeman is such a strike runner and such a threat within those sort of strikes that England can do that he's going to be very important at 13. And also, of course, you can use Ollie Lawrence for that as well, if they need to. And like you said there, Coley, just to pick up on what you said about the back three and getting someone like Manny the ball more, it then becomes this idea of, do you use Ollie Lawrence, for instance, for that sort of battering ram, like power runner, great strike runner, or do you use the Dingwall for that distribution to try and put more width onto the game, like shift it more? Or do you look like a Marcus at fullback to be that extra playmaker? Because for me, if you're going to play this weekend, for instance, Ollie Lawrence with Tommy Freeman in the midfield, then I think you have to then have more of a distributing playmaking 15. So Freddie has plenty of talents, but I think one thing that maybe Marcus can bring at fullback or George Furbank when fit and available is that extra distributor. So if England go with Lawrence and Freeman this weekend, then I do think that they need an extra distributor, and therefore that would have to slot into fullback. If they go with Dingwall again and Freeman again, then Freddie stays at fullback because you've got a distributor playmaker. So again, like we said about back row, it's about balance, it's about complementing everyone, and that's how I see the midfield. you know, if you go for a certain midfield, then you have to also maybe look at finding extra distributors, which could be a fullback is the obvious slot for that.
Ben, we've spoke about the test match in detail. What was your Thatcher's Gold moment?
Thatcher's Gold moment, Coley. Now, you may think it's the Maul. Some people may think it's Ben Earl, like cantering in from 40 out. You may even think it's Pollock with a great one-handed catch, try, the little celebration. No. Like nothing can overshadow Lewis Moody, mate. And just going out onto Allianz Twickenham Stadium, like the reception he got, absolutely deserved. Of course, you know, the diagnosis of MMD, but to see Lewis Moody go out onto the field, I also saw that he joined England in the change rooms after. For me, it doesn't matter what had happened on the pitch. That for me was the Thatcher's Gold moment. Him getting the reception, getting that moment coming on the pitch, and, you know, just him being able to see that, you know, everyone is behind him, and rugby has such a sort of unique family, they say, you know, the rugby family and everyone that sort of supports, and you saw that firsthand. So for me, yes, we had the match, but the Thatcher's Gold moment has to go to Lewis Moody and him coming onto the pitch, like, you know, everyone and the cheer he got, and rightly so. So for me, that was the moment.
Totally agree, Ben. Thank you to Thatcher's again for partnering us through the autumn, and we're picking our Thatcher's Gold moment from every weekend.
England, of course, have won 8 in a row, Coley. And that momentum, that feeling, like we've been there, Coley. We won 18 in a row. We're part of that team that went 18 games unbeaten. And when you lose, there's a bit of uncertainty within the air, you know, like what's review going to be like, you know, what's selection going to happen? Is there going to be changes? But when you're winning and the momentum, like the mood is naturally good. For instance, on a Sunday, at Penny Hill, you could actually have the Penny Hill breakfast, which was great. Like Doris is in there. She's been chefing there for about 20 years. She's asking what eggs you want. You're seeing all the lads. Everyone's in good spirits. The family are there. There's like just a nice mood on a Sunday morning. You go do your recovery. Everything's a bit more lighthearted. Everything's a bit more enjoyable. Everyone is sort of almost, you can't wait for the next week to start again. You're almost looking forward to review. You're looking forward to preview because you want the next game to come. You want to keep that momentum going. And also within training, straight away, like the standard just carries on, like it keeps lifting. You know, players that are involved want to stay involved. Players that are looking in, you know, from the shop window, like they want to get involved. So they know straight away this week, well, the team is still winning. It's a team that keeps on winning. I've got to raise my level to try and knock at the door to try and get in there. And I just think it all sort of builds to that momentum. It builds to that environment. It becomes a very enjoyable place to be. It becomes very more like you want more of it. You don't want the run to stop. And it just has an instant impact. And also, like, when you're away in the autumn or the Six Nations, for instance, round 1 is very important because it sets up the rest of the tournament. I know it sounds obvious, but it really does. Like, you know, if England had lost at the weekend, you're then sort of chasing your tail this week against Fiji, which is always one of those games where it's difficult. You can't necessarily, it's a bit of a lose-lose because you win, everyone expects you to win. And if it's scrappy, everyone's frustrated. And I just think the importance of this and the important momentum is huge. And when we did it, Coley, and we went on our run, you know, like you just don't want the treadmill to stop. You want the games to keep coming and you just want to stay a part of it and you want to keep building on what you're doing.
There was periods that where we actually felt like invincible in regards to no matter what the situation in the game, we're fine. We'll find a way out of it. We've got a better game plan. We've got sort of our players be tighter. We've got more cohesive unit, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I don't think England probably at that point yet, but I think in terms of, as you say, the mood in the camp, like I know the coaches, that coaching staff, whether you win or lose, the reviews will be the same in-depth detail because sometimes you think, oh, you win, you don't go as hard. You know, the reviews are, oh, it's just, we'll keep the vibe going. It's just really good. Well done, everyone. But actually, everyone knows there's stuff to work on. Players know it. And although sometimes you don't want to hear it, it's best that you do because you want to keep getting better. And I think, you know, this England team is fairly young and winning these games just has momentum. And also, it gives you belief in the journey that you're on. One big thing I'd say is that when you're on this journey with the coaching staff and the way you play and the style and the selections and stuff, and when you lose, it's easy to kind of go, oh, well, we should do this better, we should do this better, we should do that better. But when you win, it's like, actually, there's proof of concept in how we play, there's proof of concept in the teams that gets picked, there's proof of concept in how we go about our business. Actually, we might be winning in a way that's, oh, we're not scoring 50 points. I'm not zinging it off my left hand through 75 blokes. But actually, I want to win games of rugby for England. And test matches come down to close margins and we're winning them by close margins. So actually that belief, that confidence grows in the group and just, keeps adding to the momentum that you have. And yeah, it might come unstuck against New Zealand, it might come unstuck against Fiji, whatever, but actually you've got 8 games of victories that you can go back upon. And sometimes you need that bump in the road to go, actually, we've just drifted away from what we've just creeped away from what we're doing. Let's bring it back. And yeah, it's fine, I think. But this, as you say, the knowledge, the experience, the shared experiences grow, and it makes England better for it.
Yeah, I really resonates when you said about that invincibility feeling, Coley, that moment of like, it doesn't matter what's thrown at us, we'll deal with it. And that's why I think England-New Zealand is such an important game, not taken away from Fiji this weekend, but you start thinking about that England-New Zealand test and how important that is. I remember we played Argentina and at Twickenham, and Elliot Daly took their number 8 out in the air and he got red carded. It was only after 5-10 minutes, if that, something like that. And we played the entire game obviously down to 14. But there was not one moment where we didn't think that we could not win that still. It just didn't matter what was thrown at us. We felt like we had the tools and the capabilities to deal with it, and the game plan and the adaptability. And I think that's where England want to get to and can get to. And that's why I think, again, that invincibility, that feeling of being able to deal with anything, that New Zealand game is the perfect one, because, they win that, momentum builds nicely and they carry that on. So, yeah, it's exciting times. I was really, really pleased with England carrying on their streak. I was pleased with aspects of their game at the weekend. I think it's a really solid start. I think we've always said it, Coley, the England we see first weekend to the England we see at the end of the autumn will look very different. And I can see what they're trying to do, and I can see what they're building towards. And as an England fan, I think everyone should be pretty excited about where this team's going.
On a slightly different note, Ben, but on a similar theme, in terms of exciting starts to the autumn, how was taking the JAECOO down to Twickenham?
The JAECOO 7 went on its first trip down to Allianz Twickenham. Parked up in full bright pink, logo all on display. I got a number of waves and horns as I went down on the motorways and headed towards Twickenham, people waving.
You sure that was not your driving?
Well, for a second I thought it was potentially my driving, but
Which
when you're driving,
the waves.
When you're driving along, and when someone's then driving next to you on a motorway, and they're sort of level with you for a little bit too longer than you know what I mean. You're able to then notice, being like, what's going on here? So I sort of look over, and there's sort of all these faces pressed against the window, and they're all sort of waving and giving the thumbs up. So there was a few obviously pod listeners that was able to feast their eyes on the magnificent, for the love of rugby, pink wrapped JAECOO 7 as it's made its way to Allianz Twickenham. So for those that I saw, and for those that waved and gave me a hoot, thank you very much. I'm
sure it was an incredibly efficient journey as well, Ben.
It was very efficient, Coley. I can't give you the MPG right now, but it was very efficient. Before we go, we've got a very special announcement that we're going on tour. Coley, where are we going?
We are going to Edinburgh, Dublin, Cardiff, Exeter, Cheltenham, Birmingham, London, and Manchester.
Tickets go on sale to the podcast fans only on Wednesday at 10 a.m. The link will be in Coley's newsletter, which you can sign up for in the episode description.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button and leave a comment.
We're now going to record a video about Ireland versus New Zealand, so make sure you subscribe. Goodbye.
Bye. For the love of rugby.
If you want to drop us a line, get involved with our socials.
Just search for @LoveOfRugby. And if you've listened to all our episodes and need another podcast, go and find Joe Marler's Things People Do.
See you next time.